this would serve as the list ID, AW test list, and I'm going to configure the same one for level 1. Okay, so it's that simple. Now Aweber is integrated. Now there is one additional step, okay, that has to be completed in order for this to work properly. With Aweber, they use a concept at Aweber called an email parser. If you go to the My List tab, you go down in this drop down, you can click on this email parser option, and this will bring up a list of all of the email parsers that work in conjunction with different services. Now we're in the process of having our service integrated with s2Member option here in this list, but it's actually not really needed because you can just choose the PayPal order parser, and that will work just fine. Okay, so here I've just checked off PayPal orders, and there's nothing to save. You just check that box. This will expand down, and please don't be confused by this final step. There's nothing more you need to do. All you have to do is just check that box, and that is it. Okay, then we come back, we have our list IDs, and I'm going to go ahead and collapse this section now. Okay, this third section is a registration double opt-in box. Now, believe it or not, s2Member has been configured to make this totally optional. Okay, this will never be shown though unless you have configured one of these two services. Okay, now what's interesting is that you can actually have both of these services configured. So in this case, I have just configured MailChimp, and I have also configured Aweber. So if for some strange reason I was using both of these, I could integrate s2Member in that fashion, and it would work fine. Now your customers may get two different confirmation emails, one from each of these services, so that might not be real customer friendly, but it is possible. If one or both of these is configured, it will trigger this registration double opt-in box that will appear on the registration form for your installation of WordPress. Now, I'm going to open up an example of this. I'm going to take the main domain, the main URL to my installation of WordPress. I'm going to open up a new tab, and I'm going to follow that with wplogin.php action equals register. So that is the registration form, and by default this is just a voided area down here in the bottom left hand corner. So when I save these options with one of these services configured, if I choose save, and then I come back to my registration form, I will see that there is now an opt-in checkbox at the bottom so that my customers can choose whether or not they actually want to be subscribed to my list, whether they want to receive that confirmation email that will be triggered as a result of this box being checked. Now this box being here is optional. Okay? When this box is here, the process by which a customer actually subscribes to your list would be considered a double opt-in. Well, why do we call this double? Well, because the first opt-in is where this box is either checked or unchecked, and if they check it, that's the first opt-in. The second opt-in occurs inside their email application where the confirmation email is clicked on, and that is the double opt-in. Okay? So that's why we refer to it that way. I'm going to switch tabs again back over here to the API list servers and move down to see what options I have available. Now it says I can choose the text. In other words, it's right now underneath the checkbox it says yes, I want to receive updates via email, as indicated here. I'm going to switch tabs again. Okay, so now I see I can change that text to whatever I like. So if I wanted to put in a more lengthy description or possibly even a link to a privacy policy, I could do that here. Okay? Then here I can choose whether I even want the box checked. Now if I choose no, okay, obviously I can't choose the text in that case. If I choose no, that does not mean that these integrations are disabled. It just means that instead of using a double opt-in, now I'm choosing to use a single opt-in. So I'm not giving the customer a choice of whether they're going to receive that confirmation email or not. If the box is not displayed, s2Member will always send that confirmation email. Okay, because we're not giving the customer a choice. Or I can choose to display it but have it unchecked by default, where the box itself would not be checked. They would have to actually check it themselves. Okay? Or the default setting is just to have it pre-checked and have it available so a customer could essentially opt out of that first step of the process. So they would still be able to register and sign up, but they would not actually be sent the confirmation email if that box was unchecked specifically by the customer in that case. Okay, so this is giving you the flexibility to really customize how this double opt-in checkbox works, and also this will also work for BuddyPress registration forms in most themes. Just about every BuddyPress theme will integrate with this just fine, and s2Member makes an attempt to provide this double opt-in box in the registration form for BuddyPress. With BuddyPress, this registration form is usually not used, and instead the registration form for BuddyPress is used. And so this opt-in box needs to be integrated there. Okay. Now in this last section, this is just talking about other integration methods. And this is just a brief detail regarding API notifications, because as we went over in the beginning, if you'd like, you can integrate other services using API notifications. So for example, I could use an API notification that would hook onto the registration event so that I could receive the first name, last name, email address, the login, even the password and user ID of each new registration that occurs on my site. So I could just put in a URL here that would be something like this, and I would have a script that I would write in PHP that would receive the email address just like this, and then it would be up to my script to process that and communicate it to my list server. Okay, so I can't provide a full example here because depending on your list server, this might be a little different. Okay, but if your list server already provides a URL or an API, you might see if you can get the help of a developer to integrate it in this fashion. So there's several possibilities for this, and this can be extended into lots of different directions. And there's several other notifications. We've done a separate video on this, so if you want to take a look at that video, you'll find all of the details about how these work at s2Member.com. Okay, and that's it for s2Member's email list server integrations.